different approaches to street photography. My approach, and what I prefer, is to engage with my subject, if at all possible, before I take the photo. I'm not necessarily always out there searching for that moment, that decisive moment that a lot of people look for when shooting street. Instead, I much prefer to look for that human interaction, seeing people, talking to people, finding out what they're all about. After I chat with them for a while, I ask if I can take their photo. And that's what happened in this photo here while I was in Las Vegas. I saw these guys who were actually promoters, and they were, talking to everybody and trying to sell people on whatever it is they were pushing. And they looked like a bunch of fun guys. So I went up to them and started chatting with them, and they were all outgoing, and they wanted me to take their photo. So I went and I took their photo. And it was a lot of fun. And the photo that came out of it is what you see here. So we don't always have to look for the decisive moments when it comes to street photography. Sometimes pay attention to the people on the street and interact with them, and you might come away with a very cool shot. This next image is one of my favorites. It was taken a few years ago while in, I believe it was Rio, Brazil. I could be wrong. It was in Brazil. And we were eating at a table outside, and I saw this restaurant waiter and what appeared to be a valet guy from the hotel or a luggage guy from the hotel. And they were standing there chatting, and I lifted up my camera towards them to take a picture. They saw me and they decided to pose for me. So you see the waiter giving the guy a hug, and the other guy's got his arm around the waiter, and they're looking at the camera, and they enjoyed having their picture taken. Many times you go out here in America, and a lot of people are like, get that camera out of my face, that kind of thing. But I found traveling all over the world that a lot of times people enjoy having their photo taken, and this was a pleasant experience for me, and it made it very easy to do some street photography. But again, there was some form of human interaction going on. A wink, a nod, a smile, and then I shot the image. Here's another image. This was a guy on the street. He appeared to be homeless. And I know a lot of people do not like to take photos of homeless people, but I had a homeless project for a few years I was working on, basically to raise awareness. And I didn't just go up and snap their picture and run away. I would go up and speak to them, talk to them, help them out with blankets, water, food, jackets. And after speaking with them for 20 minutes, an hour, whatever, I would ask them if I could take their portrait. This guy here, I chatted with him for probably 20 minutes. Leaning against the wall with him, sitting down, and when I asked him if I could take his portrait, he was very happy to allow me to do so. And once again, for the third time, this is street photography with human interaction. Don't be afraid to approach people. The worst they can do is say no. So if you want to take a photo of them on the street, make sure there's some kind of interaction going on, instead of just running up there and sneaking a quick picture, because that will offend someone much more than going up and asking and chatting with them for a while and showing interest in the person. So that's a way that I love to go about shooting on the street. Yet another example. This was in, I think, Recife, Brazil, on the beach. We were all hanging out on the beach and having a good time late night. And these two girls were with a bunch of friends, and one of them was playing the guitar. And I walked up to them, asked about the guitar, and they played a little bit of music for me, and then they wanted me to take their photo and email it to them. So I took a couple photos. I had my Leica M9 and a Noctilux f9.5. Shot one photo, actually, now that I think about it, of these two, and I emailed it to them an hour later, and they loved it. So you can see that they were happy, having a good time, and this is like a slice of life, a memory that you can't get back unless you take a photo of it. So photography, to me, is much like having a time machine, because you can use that device to go back in time when looking back at the photos you took and the memories that were made. Here's an image from a few years ago, maybe 4 years ago, locally here. It was in Scottsdale, Arizona, and I had a Rico GXR, I believe it was, with me. And a friend and I went to a bar that is all decorated for Christmas. There's like 100,000 lights or something. It's insane. So we went there to see the lights, but as we walked in, there was a dog there greeting everyone with a handshake. And he shook our hands, and then when I had to get a picture, so I saw this guy coming up, the dog shook his hand. He was like the greeter of the bar, and he hung out in front, never ran away. He greeted everybody, and he loved to shake hands. So there is a special moment that I'll always remember because I took the photo. Brings back a smile and a feeling of good times. While in St. Petersburg, Russia, I shot this image of this couple kissing, and believe it or not, this was around midnight. There's a time of the year there where you have daylight at night, and it was pretty interesting because you see the full tour bus there, and the bright sun coming in, and it was hard to believe that it was midnight, so it made me feel like I was still awake during the daytime. It gave me some energy. But I saw this couple as the boat came by, getting ready to kiss. I lifted up my M9, I think it was a 35 Summicron, and I snapped the image, and I was very happy with it. Now in this scenario, the couple had no idea that I took their image. So this is another way of doing street photography. You don't always have to engage. I wasn't going to go up to them and interrupt their kiss and say, hey, can I take your photo? Instead, this one was about catching a specific moment, which is another thing I like to do. While I love human engagement, if there's a moment to be found and be recorded and captured, I will capture it if I can. So this is one of those scenarios. Las Vegas is full of craziness, debauchery, drunkenness, and a lot of outgoing, friendly people. This was midday walking down by the Flamingo where they have Margaritaville. And there's always people out there drinking and having a good time. And this woman saw me taking a photo of someone else, and she was screaming out, hey, take my picture, take my picture. So I aimed up the Leica monochrome towards her, and she gave me this pose, which she'll probably look back at if she ever sees it and be like, what was I thinking? But anyway, again, it was another memory captured, and a memory of a time that I had in Las Vegas. So always have your camera with you at the ready if you're doing street shooting, because you never know when you might have an opportunity to capture something or someone who wants you to take their photo, and sometimes they work out. Okay, this was somewhere in South America. I was with Seal. He's in the foreground there on his tour a few years ago, and I saw this security guy who earlier to me looked a little scary, and he was kind of eyeballing my camera and Seal's camera, and the guy behind him was some kind of security guy as well, because there was some kind of event going on where somebody was coming and they needed this big security. So I just raised the camera, he looked right at it, and I snapped the photo. So I have the security guard in front and in the back both looking at me. And I think Seal was down looking at his M9, seeing what he captured because he was also taking photos. So the color, this one I chose color because I liked the yellow, the pink, the blues, and I think the color looks better than the black and white. Street photography doesn't always have to be black and white. Just because the old masters used black and white film doesn't mean we have to use black and white today. So this is just another one that I liked from that era when using my M9. Another one from Las Vegas using the Leica monochrome. I just talked about color, but there's also a place for black and white. Sometimes street photography just looks better in black and white, and sometimes it looks better in color. This one I had no choice when using the monochrome. It's black and white, and that's all you get. But this was a security guy directing traffic because the streets were getting crowded. And I kind of just got in front of him, took his picture. He gave me this look. And after I was done, I thanked him, and he said, you should have told me in advance. I would have smiled. And I said, well, this shows your true expression. It actually would have looked fake if you smiled. So I'm glad I caught your real expression. So that's important to me as well, trying to capture the realness of life. I choose reality anytime over fake. So if I can capture someone's true feelings, you can kind of see that he maybe was a little stressed, a little hectic at that moment, and he was probably thinking, why is this guy pointing a camera in my face? but I caught the real expression, and he turned out to be a very nice guy. This was actually moments later walking down the strip, and this guy had two vicious looking pit bulls who I'm sure were very friendly in reality, but he had the big chains on him, and he's standing there with his tap out shirt, and everybody was kind of looking at his dogs, telling him how beautiful they were, but you just had this feeling that any moment, if he didn't like you, he could sick those dogs right on you. So I kind of gave him a wink, a nod kind of thing. I knelt down in front of him, and I shot the image, and then he gave me a smile. Again, most people are usually very friendly. I thanked him. I didn't engage in conversation with him because he was busy with others, but he knew what I was doing. He didn't mind me taking his photo. So always be on the lookout for interesting subjects, but you also want to be careful who you approach. Sometimes it can go bad, and sometimes people will try to steal your camera and throw it down. I've seen that happen with one or two people. It never happened with me, but as long as you show respect, give respect, I think that most people will not get mad at you for taking their photo. These guys were two parking attendants somewhere in South America, and they were arguing, and I forgot what they were arguing about exactly, but I kind of just got in front of them and snapped the picture. And after I snapped the picture, they looked at me a little serious, like, who the hell are you? And then they started laughing, and they were like, oh, great, we were arguing or whatever, and then they were fine. Then they actually stopped arguing and started laughing because they thought it was kind of amusing that I took their photo while they were arguing. So it was kind of a fun photo. And again, I wasn't sure up front if they were going to get angry at me, but I kind of got the vibe that they were going to be cool with it. And that's usually the only time I will take a photo of a situation like that without engaging them first, which leads me to the next photo. I believe this was in Rio, possibly, and I remember seeing this woman walk around with a scowl on her face, all yelling at people and being really pissed off. And I said, wow, it'd be great if I can talk to her and get her portrait. And I kind of knew that wasn't going to work. It didn't seem like she was going to talk to me. So I basically stood back on the sidewalk, saw her coming. When she got in front of my camera, I thought she was looking at me, but she ended up looking behind me, and I snapped the photo. And she was just kind of angry that day and not happy, and I don't really know her backstory. But again, later I saw her talking with another woman, and they were yelling at everybody on the street. So this looks like a gritty, raw photo, and that's because it is. It's, a slice of reality, a slice of that 1/250th of a second, whatever the shutter speed I used was, probably 1/2000th of a second moment in time. So it's interesting when you carry your camera with you every day, because you never know who or what you might catch. This guy was fantastic. He was homeless. He had some disabilities, but he had an attitude better than 80% of the people I meet on a daily basis. He was happy. He was positive. He was broke, poor, hungry, but I helped him out with some money that I had. Again, this was in Brazil somewhere. And again, he said he was not speaking English to me, but he made the motion for me to take his photo. So he wanted to pose for the photo, and he did. And he was very happy and excited that I shot the photo. So it's just another example of engaging with someone, even when they don't speak your same language. In this case, it was easy for me to engage with him because he was so positive and friendly. And right then, that's when I knew that he'd be okay with me taking his portrait. This was taken on a Leica M9 with a 50 Summicron f2. So here we are on the beach once again in Brazil, and I see this statue on a park bench of an older gentleman looking off, and I was intrigued by the statue. And as I was sitting there watching it, I saw this older gentleman hobble up with a cane, and he sat down and he held this position like he was frozen. He looked like a statue himself. And then there was three women behind him looking at the ocean, and I just thought it was kind of interesting that this older gentleman sat next to the statue, looked like a statue himself, And I was wondering what his thoughts were, what was going through his mind. Was he reminiscing about his past life, his better days, the memories he's encountered in life? Does he have a connection with this beach? Does he sit here every day? No one will ever know, but I thought it made for an interesting photo. And again, I used the Leica M9, and this is probably a 50 Summicron. I was using that lens quite a bit at the time, as I find it to be a perfect street photography lens, well worth the investment. And while on the beach, I saw this woman giving her boyfriend or husband, whoever he was, we don't know, neck massage and then shoulder massage, and she was whispering in his ear and smiling. And again, I believe I used the 50 Summicron and Leica M9 for this. So basically, I stood not too far from them. They saw me standing there, and then they just kept going about their business. I kind of smiled, and then I took their photo, and they actually heard the shutter, looked up and smiled and waved at me. So again, no problem getting this photo, and it was kind of one of those decisive moments that a couple is sharing a moment together all alone on the beach. There was actually no one else around them at all, and I don't really know why. It was hot out, it was daytime, but it was a great experience, and one of the best experiences that I've had for street shooting. New York City, the hustle and bustle. This is a crazy place for street photography because you have mass amounts of people everywhere. But this is a place where I've had the only negative experiences where people wanted to throw my camera or punch me out because they thought I was going to take their picture. So this is where I'm very careful when shooting people, because so many people are grumpy, they're busy, they're going through their life, they're working 14 hours a day. The last thing they want is somebody coming up in their face to take their photo. So for this one, I hung out by Penn Station, 34th Street, you can see, and I was watching people come out, go in, and I snapped this guy coming out, and I just thought it was kind of a classic looking photo. I used the Noctilux f9.5 along with the M9 and converted it to black and white. And here's one more. While I was outside of the USA, I was taking a photo walk. This must have been like 6 in the morning or maybe 5 in the morning, and there were still people coming out of a bar. And these two ladies were coming out. I was with Seal and his best friend Steve, and we were out shooting the old buildings, and we didn't think we'd run into anybody. So when they came out, they were all smiles, and again, they wanted their photo taken. But this was before they wanted the photo taken. This was when, as we walked by, she looked at the camera, smiled, I snapped. I think I took it with a Fuji X100, the very first one. And after this, they just wanted more pictures taken, so we took a few, but I didn't really like those because this one captured the real smile, the real moment, the real face of her saying, hey, you have a camera and you're taking my picture. So to me, this is a lot of what street photography is about: meeting people, seeing fresh faces, getting out and socializing, and 80% of the time approaching your subject and engaging with them to kind of build up some sort of rapport with them, so you can get the feeling or get the idea if they want you to take their photo. Some people just don't want you to take their photo. So I had a very good time taking all of these photos. Street photography is something that one can really never master. I'm not a master at street photography by any stretch of the imagination, but I enjoy doing it. And for me, that's all that matters. If you enjoy doing it, if it's a passion, if you love getting out there, seeing what you can snap and create and capture, that is what it's all about. Your happiness, your enjoyment. You have one life to live. Live it doing what you enjoy. So thanks for watching this little street photography presentation. I hope you liked it. And always check back to stevehufpphoto.com for camera reviews, news, guest posts, daily inspirations, and so much more. Thank you.